Hello and welcome to Not Your Inspiration, the podcast where I ramble about disability for an extended period of time. I'm your host, Gray, and today we have a guest, Artemis. She is super gay and she's here because her legs don't work. She's also a veteran of the Cripple punk movement, which is what we are going to be talking about today. So, hello and thank you for coming on my shitty podcast.
Hello. That's a weird phrase to think about. Veteran of the Cripple Punk movement.
I think it sounds official and kind of nice, but it is a bit of a strange phrase. And also, just in case anyone listening to this has no idea what I'm talking about when I say the cripple punk movement, I just want to read the definition really quickly so we're all on the same page. So this is from Urban Dictionary. The cripple punk movement, also known as C-punk, is a movement that is exclusively by the physically disabled for the physically disabled. It started on Tumblr, and it's about rejecting pity, inspiration porn, and all other forms of ableism. It ejects the good cripple mythos. Cripple punk is here for the bitter cripple, the uninspirational cripple, the smoking cripple, the drinking cripple, the addict cripple, the cripple who hasn't, quote, tried everything. Cripple punk fights internalized ableism and fully supports those struggling with it. It respects the intersections of race, culture, gender, sexual and romantic orientation, size, intersex status, mental illness/neurotypical status, survivor status, etc. Cripple punk does not pander to the able-bodied. So the quote-unquote rules are cripple punk is not conditional on things like mobility aids and functioning levels. Always listen to those with different physical disabilities and different intersections than yourself. Disabled people do not need to personally identify with the words cripple or punk individually to be part of cripple punk. And able-bodied people wishing to spread the message may only ever amplify the voices of the disabled. So that's what we're talking about. If anyone listening to this is just like, what the hell are they talking about? And I have questions for you. So,
All right. Just to start off with, like I use she/her pronouns just to get that.
yes, I did not say that. So, sorry about that. See, I
No
told you
worries.
I'm like disorganized. Um, so I just want to ask, like, what does this mean to you personally?
Um.
I know, big question to start off with.
Yeah. I think it's changed a lot because I mean I know it's weird to call myself a veteran, but I really have been like there since.
Hang on, I think you cut out. I think your audio cut out. Very dramatic place to cut out. Can you hear me? Yeah,
Okay.
there you are. You're back. Sorry, I think you.
Like uh, sixth grade to junior year in high school, I did swimming as like my sport, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously doesn't like require you to put weight on your legs. And as it turns out, that's like the number one thing that my disability interferes with. Like whenever I start to put weight on my legs don't like that. And so when I was doing other stuff, I started to be developing problems with my legs, and I really had little concept of what was going on and little ability to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came across Cripple Punk and saw these people talking about this, literally at the time, this wild concept of disability. Like I had little exposure to people talking about disability, and I saw people talking about it, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's
Revolutionary.
what?"
Revolutionary to kind of hear
Yeah,
about it for the first time.
yeah. It's like I'm like, wow, that's a thing that is happening to me, and so yeah, I started to like, and from that, from thinking of myself as a disabled person, I was able to better think about what was going on with me and how to identify symptoms and how to more effectively deal with it instead of it being a loose concept that I wasn't really able to think about in any great detail.
I mean, I actually have a fairly similar story. I joined much later than you. I really didn't discover the movement until late 2015, early 16. But even then, I was just kind of lurking in the background. I wasn't really contributing. Um, but it really is, like I knew what disability meant, but the images in my head, I just didn't picture myself as disabled because I didn't know what it meant. There's not sort of accurate exposure. Um, so I think that's a very relatable story. And it kind of leads me into my next point, which is I personally, and I think a lot of people that I talk to feel really, really that this movement has been very helpful to them. And so I kind of want to ask you, like, how do you think that Cripple Punk has helped disabled people?
Um,
Besides, I
I
mean,
could write
yeah.
an entire book on how discovering the cripple punk movement has helped me, and it could just be dedicated to how its creator, Tyler, has personally helped me. But um, I think in general, for helping disabled people, I've noticed it's been this incredible, like, it's been disabled pride
Mhm.
completely decontextualizing us from able standards. Like, we are cripples, we are disabled people, um, like, we are what we are. Like, that's an incredible shift in perception. Um,
It
like,
is, yeah.
it's one thing to be told how to be normal, and I use, like, obviously the biggest air quotes on the word normal.
Mhm.
Um, but it's another thing to.
Oh no, your audio cut out again, so hang on. See, this is why most professional podcasters have a better system than just call me and I'll put you on speakerphone. So, okay, you're back.
Like,
Yay.
very visibly on.
You
Is
there?
everything off?
Yeah. Sorry, your audio's been kind of funky. I
Okay.
can. There, you're back. Yay.
Um, yeah, like, what's the last thing you clearly got?
The last thing I clearly got is how it's totally decontextualized from able bodied standards and how that's sort of revolutionary.
Definitely, it's it's allowed disabled people to see ourselves as ourselves, basically,
Hmm.
and that helps a lot.
It does. I mean, I know for me, and I also know that you said in the beginning it's hard to separate the difference between how the cripple punk movement has helped people versus how the creator of that movement, Tyler, has helped people. Um, and that really resonated with me, and you knew them much better than I did. But even just the little bit that I talked to them, um, it sounds really sappy and it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I mean it when I say that they saved my life. Um,
Oh yeah, they saved my life too.
yeah, and just the people that I've talked to, that's a really common thing that I've heard, oh yeah, Tyler saved my life. They saved my life on multiple occasions. And it's very true. I don't mean to sidetrack from what you said. It's interesting. I just sort of you made a really interesting point about kind of the difference between the movement versus the creator of the movement, and I think they're really connected because I think the movement in and of itself has also really helped a lot of people's lives and given a lot of people's meanings. Um, and yeah, I think being decontextualized from sort of, how to be a good disabled person and how to fit into this able bodied world and blah, blah, blah. It's totally unique and it's just, yeah, it is helpful. I mean, I'm trying to think like how I would describe this to an able bodied person, which is kind of the opposite, I think, of what Cripple Punk is about.
It
So,
is.
and it's interesting that that's like where my mind went. Like, oh my God, there must be able bodied people listening to this. How would I describe it to them? I kind of want to. like yell at myself for that. But so, okay, we've talked a lot about, this movement has helped people and it's been amazing. There are people and disabled people who are um, super against it. And my question for you is, what would you say to them and why do you think that is?
I have to admit, I haven't specifically encountered any criticism from disabled people of the cripple punk movement. I'm sure it exists. It's not something that I've personally been exposed to. So I can't quite know. I have to know the reasons that they're criticizing it in order to respond. I
Hmm.
do understand some people's knee-jerk fear of rejecting abled standards because able-bodied people have such a giant, like, we live under capitalism, obviously, and that's
Hmm.
terrible. And also, like, able-bodied people control our society to such a degree that it, like, rejecting them
It's
seems like a
terrifying.
terrifying and almost unsafe pursuit. Um,
Yeah.
but I think I would say that standing up for us and the right to be ourselves and the right to live as ourselves,
Hmm.
because any support able-bodied people offer us is so conditional.
It is.
They only want what we can do.
I think they want
And
what we can do, or they want to pat themselves on the back, like, oh, I helped the poor, inspirational, handicapped person.
oh, definitely. But, like, yeah, that's definitely the case.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I've heard some disabled people saying, well, why wouldn't you want to overcome your disability? Or, why wouldn't you want to be positive? And I think for me at least, it's easy to look at them and say, well, yeah, you would say that because, you're so kind of under the control of able-bodied standards. But then I also kind of want to step back and look at, I don't want to blame them. I don't want to blame disabled people who have internalized ableism and who, um, you know, think that they need to overcome themselves and please able-bodied people. I just want to blame the able-bodied and capitalistic society that sort of makes that idea so drilled into our minds that it's impossible and horrifying to reject it.
Yeah.
And okay, so I I don't want to drift onto a depressing note. Um, However, I feel like it's almost irresponsible to talk about the Cripple Punk movement without talking about Tyler, who created that movement.
Yeah.
And Tyler passed away in November of 2017, and I know that you were really good friends with them. I barely knew them, and they changed my life. And I just and stop me if this question is just too personal or too whatever, and I can edit this out. But how did they personally change your life, and what did they mean to you as a person?
Um. Oh man, that's. I'm going to answer this question, but I have no idea how emotional I'm going to be by the end of this. All right.
That's okay. Feel free to just sob.
Fuck. Also, I need to ask how I can talk a lot about how Ty changed my life in perfectly like clean ways, but there's also a bit of a TMI aspect that I think is central to how Ty and I became so close. Is that all right?
It's fine by me. Whatever you're comfortable sharing is totally fine with me.
Um, yeah, Ty and I followed Ty in December of 2014. They followed me back in January of 2016.
Mhm.
I was actually in the hospital the first when they followed me back, and when we had our first conversation, um, which I think is a very cripple punk thing.
It is.
Um, um, we became good friends. Well, not immediately good friends. We became friends. They became super attracted to me. And we found a lot in common in terms of both being transgender, disabled, neurodivergent people. And one of one thing that struck me about them was that they were always so motivational, and in that they would whatever I was going through, they would always like encourage me and tell me that they believed in my ability to do it. They believed that I was capable of it. Like I was and still am in college, and I was going through a lot of school stress, and they were like telling me that they believed in me, and that was so important to me. Um, that was so important to them, and that they were motivating me.
Mhm.
And also another thing that they did was that we started around like March of 2016. We got into, I think, what could loosely be called a friends with benefits relationship, even though we were still just internet friends at this point. It was just like Snapchat and Facebook Messenger and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, and that because I hadn't even started medically, I hadn't even started hormone replacement therapy at that point. Um, I had barely started transitioning, and so I had a lot of body dysphoria to the point where it was like causing me physical pain. Um, and Tyler like telling me I was beautiful and attractive as a girl, and like calling me a girl, like telling me I have a girl's body. That was honestly like I it didn't remotely end my dysphoria, but it did allow somewhat of an armistice in terms of dysphoria that has helped me to this day. Like I am nowhere near as like weighed down and in pain from dysphoria the way I used to be. And that's all Tyler.
Wow. Yeah. I
Um, Additionally, they helped get me out of a really bad relationship. They helped, they helped open my eyes to how I was in a relationship, and they opened my eyes to how toxic and unhealthy it was. Yeah, just
yeah.
like
I think we all need that sometimes. Just I've had friends be like, "What the hell are you doing with this person?" And yeah.
yeah. And then I think just one final beat I want to get on is so over the summer of 2017 um I was living at my dad's house in Boston, Massachusetts, and they lived in New York, about an hour north of Manhattan, and I would take frequent trips down to them and like spend a weekend at their house. And that it sounds cheesy, but that was like summers are not good for me in terms of social interaction, and I tend to go into a bit of a shell over the summer, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
It does.
And it, like having them around and being able to visit them so much changed that summer into a summer of like I consider that one of the best times of my life. Have you ever seen the movie Groundhog Day?
I have, yeah.
And like I want that, but the summer of 2017.
I completely understand that. And it's not cheesy at all. It's beautiful, really. Um, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Thank you
Oh,
for
and the
sharing. Hmm.
TW for mention of suicide, but they also talked me out of like multiple times when I had like really bad breakdowns, they would be there for me and like actively like talking me out of it. That too.
They were a saint, really.
They
Um,
were like I genuinely believe they're a saint. They were a saint in the most literal sense of that word.
I absolutely agree with you.
And I'm writing a letter to the Vatican right now to get them canonized.
I want to sign that letter, co-sign it, add my 2 cents. I support the getting them sainthood. But and I want to thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine that it was easy, but it's much appreciated. I know the first time I talked to them, and I wasn't nearly as close to them, I was this like scared, mousy little teenager who had nobody and didn't know. I had just newly become disabled. My health was just falling to pieces. I had no idea what was going on in my life. And there was one night when I was in the hospital, and the person who I was there with and I just got in a huge fight, and they ended up leaving. And I was just alone, and it was midnight in this hospital, and I was just so anxious and depressed. And I had been following the Cripple Punk movement, but I didn't even have, I wasn't really connected to it. And I made a throwaway blog and messaged them on it. And they immediately messaged me back. And we just talked for that entire night. And they talked me down from suicide, basically. And I never really got to thank them for that. Um, And I just want to say now into my microphone to everyone listening to The Void, thank you, Tyler, for that and for everything. I would not be the person I am without them. And, you know, I really didn't even know them as well as many other people. Um, and I'm looking at notes that I wrote down, and it says in big, bold underline, I want to dedicate this episode to Ty. And I don't really know how to do that because it feels really insufficient. Like, here, have a podcast that 20 people listen to for all your hard work. So it's kind of, I don't know. Um, but I just want to thank them, and I want to thank you for coming on here and talking about everything and sharing your experiences. Um, because I think a lot of people have similar ones. Um, and on that note, we are out of time. So I want to say thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next week.